afternoon. I am very pleased and happy to be here with you. And of course, I feel very fortunate to be able to participate at this High Court Congress. There will be a moment before and after for education in space. After this Congress, many of you here are very well known by all of us. And it is true that we are a group of people who want to change things and who want to use innovation and who are driving our efforts to try and generate that change. And that is why I think that we all should be very happy to be here. And again, I would like to thank the organizers for having invited me. And I feel very impressed. Yes, I have to say it. Very impressed. And I feel very fortunate, as I have said, because all of you, have great opportunities outside of this Congress Hall. It is true that in different rooms there are different conferences and marvelous speakers, so thank you for having decided to listen to me. And I dedicate this conference, this presentation to all of you, and I am going to try and do my best so that it is interesting for you to improve our way of thinking. These conferences, these speeches want to be motivating. I am here to try and convey and talk to you about leadership. Leadership is a fascinating concept, but mainly what I enjoy is educational leadership. Those of you who know me know that leadership is something difficult, yes, because leadership is something that you are given. Nobody says, well, I want to be a leader and I want to be applauded. No, nobody says that. We become leaders because people make us leaders. And that is why it is hard, it is difficult, because very often leaders are alone, very lonely. So, sustainable leadership, educational leadership. I was talking to some of you, and you may have a great idea, you launch it, but then how do we make it sustainable? Then we need to play a whole match and generate new and use new techniques. There are so many things to do. And the first idea I would like to launch and share with you is that leadership is an art. It is an art. Today, we've been talking about leadership a great deal, but I would like each of you to feel like artists. Leadership is an art. Yes, I insist, it is not a gift. And that is why I would like to say thank you to those artists who go beyond reason, because artists want to be able to generate art or the art because they want to impress people. They want to impress us. I see that most of you are very young, but maybe you will remember a fantastic film, a film by Peter O'Toole. He goes to the Jeu de Paume in France. And now, it is at the Musée d'Orsay. And he is there looking at Van Gogh's self-portrait, and he transforms, he changes while he is looking at that portrait. And that is a very important moment in the film. Leaders, what they want is to awaken emotion, generate emotion, impress us, and generate passion, because they have a dream. They want things to happen, and what they want is to involve us, because he already has a project in the future. He thinks that there are things to do, and he is already there into that future. Leaders want to awaken us, and artists are there to generate emotions. Artists are there to impress us, and we are all impressed by the work of artists. So once again, let's feel like artists, because leaders are artists, and that is something that can be learned. You are not born being a leader. And now I would like you to take a look at the screen. Take a look at the screen and please enjoy it. And I would like you to see that, there are people drawing, painting. Some people are painting with brushes. Others are using other tools. very thin brushes, very thick brushes. Some of them they are painting through dots. Others are using colors, light, shades. They have different ways to mix those colors, different ways of generating this piece of art. Leaders are polyedric. They have different facets, different shapes. They know themselves. Leaders are able not just to know themselves, but they also accept themselves. They know their weaknesses. They accept the way they have to do things. They know that they need to go beyond that. They need to overcome fear, because fear paralyzes us, and fear doesn't let us grow. Artists know that through their ideas, their way of being and doing, they can generate a piece of art. And that leaders have different styles. They can be a coach, a trainer. They can be more or less democratic. They may enjoy more or less to reach a consensus. He could be a role model. He may think that he is a good role model to follow, or he could have different styles. There are many different leadership styles and many different ways of doing things, just as there are many different painters and many different styles in painting. Sometimes in life, there are different circumstances. Sometimes in life, things happen in different ways, and we need to make decisions. And that makes us free. That decision-making makes us free. Sometimes we have inspectors coming to our school, and we may decide to have a specific behavior concerning those inspectors. Or we may have one behavior or another when we are talking to parents when they come and ask for an explanation about things. What do I mean by this? Circumstances don't make ourselves. Decisions are going to be shaping us, and the decision we make in the light of those circumstances are going to be shaping us. And how we solve those problems is to be shaping us and transforming us as a leader. Leaders are within a continuous process of evolution and growing. I know Frédéric Amat. I am lucky enough to know him. I don't know if you know about him. Frédéric Amat is a genius. He is a choreographer. He has been working in Japan with, Japanese opera. And he is a contemporary artist. And I have been lucky enough to be with him in his workshop. His children are students at my school. And at one point, I said to him, when you start creating, because when we are talking about contemporary art, it is highly conceptual. So what is the starting point for you? How do you start working? And he said, for me, the most important thing is to be transformed by the creative process. And that is true. Leaders have to be transformed by the decisions they make in the light of the different circumstances, and they are going to be transformed as they solve the problems. And the attitude of that leader, the attitude that he is going to be showing and having, that attitude will end up making us understand how he is as a human being. I remember that once we were in London, and there we went and visited a school, and it was very hard for us to go there to Liverpool, well, you know, the city of the Beatles. So some of you, you know about my age, you know, according to what I have just said. And in that school, what I wanted to tell you is that the principal of the school spent quite a long time with us. He was giving explanations to us in his office, but we were willing to go and see kids and the classrooms and to visit the school. And then the principal woke up and he said, oh, finally, yes, we're going to visit the school. And we started, you know, moving around. Kids were playing in the gym, and the teacher said something to a kid. The kid was far away, and it was very curious This kid sat down, he took a tennis ball and he threw it. He threw the ball at the teacher's eyes. Of course, we didn't know what to think. We were bewildered, the three of us. We were paralyzed. So suddenly the attitude of the principal, what did he do? He went to the kid. The kid was very, very nervous, very stressed. And the principal, he started by hugging the kid. The behavior, that attitude. It is true that there are people who know how to solve things with calm. And I found that really striking, and that was the most important lesson. Eugenio, I don't know if you know Eugenio, wrote a book, and he said that leaders, first of all, need to be good people, to be a good person. Leaders need to be honest people, good people. Sometimes when there is a meeting and when teachers are together and when, we start becoming stressed, what do we need at that point? At that point, the leader, the person who is leading the meeting or the coordinator, this person says, okay, let's calm down. And, and they are able to have this very calm attitude, and they know how to manage things because, leaders have a very specific attitude, and that is very important. And this leadership capacity, or this leadership capability, implies having different skills, attitudes, and that can be learned and that can be trained. But one of the things that I would like to share with you, and I would invite you to think about it, is the following. I think that families, dads and moms are leaders for their kids, right? Moms and dads have to be leading their kids, and we need also to lead ourselves. Somebody asked me, are we going to be applying this only in education? No, we have to apply leadership in all the different human organizations in the world of business too. Leaders have an emotional architecture which is very specific, and that is something essential. What do I mean by that? The emotional scaffolding or architecture. That is something that we are going to be acquiring since we are born through education and through culture. Dali, the artist, for instance, he was somebody who couldn't stand lobsters. But it is true that he expressed and explained that when he was a kid, sometimes he enjoyed being surrounded by crickets, which also made him feel very nervous. And sometimes when he wanted to be in a very specific mood, he used to use that. But for instance, Michelangelo, of course, you all must know Michelangelo, the painter, right? If I asked you, I'm sure that you would all raise the hand, and I'm sure that you all know that he painted the Sistine Chapel in Rome, but very few of you maybe know about how the Sistine Chapel was scaffolded, how the scaffolding was done. In the Sistine Chapel, when they decided to paint it, at that point, they said that, that things shouldn't stop. Mass had to continue. And Michelangelo said, oh, come on, I need to be able to be there all the time. And there was a film being done where we could see, that the painter was up there and how he insisted on being able to work there all the time. Things shouldn't stop. So they said, okay, so let's do a specific scaffolding, a hanging scaffolding, so that the painter can keep on working. Abramanti was the expert who designed the scaffolding, and Michelangelo said, I'm not going up there. Come on, the person who has designed the scaffolding, Abramanti, you go up and try it. And it collapsed, and Bramante fell. So at that point, the painter decided to design a bridge, a structure which was a bridge supported on two columns, on two supports, And, he felt much more secure. Like, that's why am I saying this? Because leaders do things that nobody know about. I'm not going to say that it is true that they are very audacious and bold, things that nobody else dared to do. And sometimes we don't know those things about leaders. And leaders, it is true, for instance, it is true that we know that Bramante designed the scaffolding, and we know it was like that. So that architecture, this emotional scaffolding or architecture is essential. For instance, when I drive the car, for my dad it was very important to park it well. And I still park my car like that. And, very recently somebody said to me, a former student said to me, I think about my years at school, with lots of love, because it is true that training with you changed my life. I did 2 masters. I don't know if you were sitting here, but somebody who was very, very happy to see me and to tell me that scaffolding in her career, in her education was essential. Things that take place in our childhood and at school, are going to mark us forever. And I think that we need to see that emotional scaffolding and being able to integrate that within our leadership techniques or skills. Sometimes we want to be something else. Sometimes some people talk about somebody who was a zarzuela composer. Zarzuela is, Spanish music. And he was a great composer, but he would have wanted to do something else. We need, to be coherent too in life, and we need to be able to acknowledge this emotional architecture and be coherent in our life. And now I would like to keep on talking about leadership. You all must know this picture. And this is very beautiful. And again, I would like to say thank you to the institution I belong to. Yes, because human relationships are essential for all of us. Sometimes some people say, I have a family, and I could not understand my life nor myself without the relationships I have with the members of my family, because it is true that families and those interactions are highly influential for all of us. Organizations, it is true that organizations are going to shape a relationships model. I remember that there was a group who came and visited us at Montserrat School, and they said, well, and this lab here, why? And this corridor here, why? What is it for? And I said, the whole school has been designed as an environment of relationships. And and he loved that, and that was the headline in the newspaper. Everything has been designed and thought so that people can meet together. Everything has been designed and thought so that we can take the most advantage of those relationships. And maybe that advantage is going to be highly emotional, because we are sharing passions and feelings. The essential thing is to feel well with each other. So within this model, the principal every morning, he goes and say hello and good morning to the 70 teachers there. Can you imagine a row of 70 teachers who say, good morning, Mr. Of course, that is impossible, right? That director, that principal cannot be all over the school, right? But yes, it is as if he was all over the school, right? Because relationships are essential. That organizational model is something that we appreciate very much, to try and be everywhere, taking care of everybody. Once I was in Holland, and I visited the offices that each teacher had. And it is true that each of them had their little office, a cubicle, a little office. And they said to me, I'm sure that you are jealous. Your teacher would like to have offices like that. And I said, well, not really, because, having a closed little office, that is something that we will never have. We enjoy having open spaces. where we can meet together, where we can talk together, spaces where we can generate human contacts. That is essential for us. And these human contacts are very important when we want to network, for instance, but the fact of being locked inside a little office, no, we don't support that. Let's generate organizational models where relationships and human relationships can flow. And as I am showing here, in our human or through our human relationships, we're going to be generating pieces of art. We create ourselves through the influence of others. Let's not be afraid of those influences. In our human relationships, there is a mix of feelings and emotions. And at the end of the day, we will have a unique piece of art. It will be unique. Relationships that we establish with each other that is going to be generating unique pieces of art. I insist. I have many memories, and I remember more people than, the training years. It is true that sometimes we have groups integrated by 300 people, very big groups, but I remember people, their names, their faces, or themselves, people. And here too, I will come out of here and I will remember about some of you, the people with whom I've been talking, and that generates a new piece of art. This recreates the piece of art. So we're talking about organizations, organizational models, human relationships, and then we should be talking about people who represent an inspiration for us. This is something that I highly appreciate, and it is very important in our schools. How to take advantage of whatever professors have to share with us. And let me give you an example. Let's imagine that I want to design a bottle, the best bottle ever in the world. What do I have to do if I want to have the best bottle? First thing to do is to study which are already the best bottles in the world, the very best ones that already exist. Before I start designing and thinking, I will go to the masters, to the experts, to those who know best. Picasso says that before painting the Dove of Peace, he was copying. He was copying many doves painted in the Renaissance. That was the attitude, not just the fact of copying or repeating. After having drawn and copied those painted before, to be able to generate the Dove of Peace with, the olive leaf.
So what is happening then with the masters? They say that masters or teachers generate pupils, the leaders generate leaders. Leaders are those people who make that the person who is by his side, her side, the person who wants to follow that dream, that goal, becomes a leader in order to be able to follow that. So, teachers, the art of emulating, I don't know whether you have heard about it. There are some people who believe that copying is bad. But emulate is not copying, and it is not imitating either. To emulate is to look at a person in a way, in an admiring way, and to want to replicate that person. And this really defines your own growth. And then there are many, many people who inspire you to do many other things. I'm very praised when people come and say, I come to see whether you can inspire me. Well, there are some people that really are inspiring. Their way of saying, their way of doing, their way of looking at things inspire you. So I think that we should be very capable of not being afraid of following those teachers, not being afraid of that emulation and that inspiration. But the leader, the true leader, the person, well, you are leader not because you are searching for that, because you are given that, but the capacity of being the leader of yourself. This is something fantastic. This capacity is something great. It is great to say that I'm taking myself and I'm doing with myself what I think is best, and I walk on the right, I walk on the left, or whatever I want to. So to be your own leader, to have this positive view, to have this view, as David Copperwriter said, an appreciative one about things and so on, to see that all the obstacles are challenging, that I am overcoming myself, I'm not alone, I can be able to reach, I'm going to do all the possible things to come. They told me, aren't you nervous? Well, rather than nervous, I feel a little bit of complex because many things have been heard from many characters about leadership, and I'm the one to talk about this. But as many well-known people are there, I'm going to do my best in positive, to be able to live for yourself. And when you are able to live there yourself, then perhaps you are able not to look for success. The leader fails because of success, because he's looking for the result of success, and the leader is constantly rethinking the same processes. So when you leader yourself, you have to be very able to be optimist, very able to see up, to be assertive, but the art of leading with others. So to be yourself, to be your own leader is fantastic, but to lead with others is an adventure. It's a wonderful journey to be able to merge everybody and to make people enthusiastic, to be a person who can make the others be willing to do something. So we generated a lot of hope, and now I go through many countries and talk to many teachers, and I see them and they say, well, I'm going to do this, and I never measure what they do, because the best measure is the illusion, the enthusiasm to do many other things for the pupils in order for them to change the world. And we have to mobilize people to a common goal. The leader is the one who merges everything, and to merge is something that was really worth the while in order to reach a dream, to reach something that can be very superior to ourselves. So to leader yourself, to leader with others, but we still have to reflect about the things we are doing, analyze, reflect. But this appreciative thing of David Cooper-River, you are alone to just, if you simply stay in that stage of seeing the mistakes I've done, how the teachers have done the wrong projects, how the evaluation or the assessment is horrible and the portfolio does not go further, we are going to close the shop. So I have to be able to see potentially what is the best thing, which are the things that I have to design even better, how can I be able to design an even better place, and also co-create with the teachers to go together to this adventure. So there is something that I think it's important, and this is the trust given to the leader, because the leader trusts him, herself, and trusts the others, and the others also realize the trust that you are given to them to go there. But starting with this reflection and starting from this analysis, but you have to build the plane while we are flying. This is the metaphor that I love to mention, and the religious sisters of my congregation know what this means, because sometimes things escape. So it is to fly, building the flight. Working under pressure, yes, of course, because the plane is falling. Is it worth the while? We are flying. Of course it is worth the while. How couldn't it be worth the while? To live, to go forward, not to stop. So then you say, what are you, a superwoman, a super person? You're asking just for a person who's willing to do something, and also be willing to feel the illusion for many, many things, be enthusiastic. And the point that I love too, I love the name of this work. They didn't wait for this. This work of art is called like this: The Eye of the Artist. The artist is able to change totally reality. But if you remember, and if you will remember, this impressionist painting of this one cathedral, which is very often painted with different moments of light, what does it happen with the cathedral? It's not anymore there. The color, the enlightenment, illumination, the different colors make that the cathedral almost disappears. When you are working at a school, at a hard school, in a strict way, when you have to give the results of the A-levels, when we do not have to lose the light and the color, because if we lose them, this high school has no meaning at all. Why? Because we are training people, because we want people that can be able to transform our world, that can be ethic, and that everything can be much better, that everything can be much more important, that the mark people can obtain in these levels. The other day there was a boy who had a very good mark in the levels, and I said, this is so good, and you can go to the university, but I don't know which is the university I have to choose. And then I asked him, the thing you have to do is to be happy, and you have to be yourself, and you can do medicine, but then you can do something else, so you have to be very quiet with that, because it's not something absolute. A study at the university is not something absolute. So to be able of analyzing reality with light, with different colors, but knowing to transcend many things. And then you have to dance. You have to dance with your own style. You have to be very able to have an action, to come to action. You have to be very able to have this personal excellence, to want to dance properly, and to know that this is your dance, and to know too that you have to dance. Many leaders remain in theory, don't decide, go around, never dance, but they explain just the mechanisms of dance. You have to dance. You have to risk yourself and dance. So I would like now to play this movie, Behavior. This is the homework I'm going to tell you to do. It's a Cuban movie. It's a movie that really touches you because of Carmela, who's the teacher for the last years in Spain. We could have feel identified with her. This film has been a sensation in Cuba because there are many nuances of the film that have generated that in the rooms where it has been exhibited in the cinemas, people are giving a very big applause because of the freedom of expression and many things happening in the movie. So you are going to see how this teacher, who is a substituting teacher, how she's the leader of a conflict situation. And let's go and see what Carmela says. I'm not going to give you time for you to talk with one another, but I would tell you that if you want to, you can make remarks on the movie. When they say, tell your mother to pick you up, also to think that there are mummies that cannot go to school to pick them up. This is an extreme case, but let's go and see it. They are arguing because the one has asked the other to give something to somebody. I don't know who he is. The mom has to come and collect that. He wants to know what they are hiding there. Those cards. He's telling the children not to bring the cards again. I couldn't understand the voice so properly with his Cuban accent, but I think he refuses to leave the cars there, and the man won't come to pick them up. Every year, I've got a boy like this in my classroom. 4 things are important for a boy: house, school, rigor, and affection. The street is there, and a teacher needs to know what is there outside. The only clear thing for me is what shouldn't I prepare a student for. Leadership, ways of solving conflicts, very nice movie, because I'm not going to tell you the end, but people see what the evolution of the substituting teacher is. It's a beautiful film. I do recommend to you. Now we can remark what is behind her, which patterns of behavior and somebody go on. In this first part, and I close it with a movie, we would say, let's feel as an artist, leadership is art. It's not it's not something you've got something innate. It's something that can be learned and trained. So let's feel as artists. So in the second part, I would love to talk about an aspect of leadership that for me is the core of the conference today. And this aspect of leadership is a kind of symbiosis of ideas of theologists and historians. I have made this kind of symbiosis mixture to transmit to you how I think that the leader has to manage the organization so that there can be expectations, travels, journeys, dreams. Let's go and see this ecosystem. When we say, and have a look at this, when we say, or we make the Darfurs at school, or we analyze reality, sometimes we've said this is what we have. This is what we have. These children are like this. They are never ever going to study. They are killing us. This is what we have. When we say this is what we have, we are getting wrong. Because what we have got is what we want to make with this reality. So when we are doing this analysis, it is not only the things that there are, plus the things we want to do with what there are. But we can only improve what there is, or we can only improve the reality if we bring the future to what we have. So we have to bring the future to reality. We have to bring the dream to reality. We have to be able to transform, to think on this reality from perspectives that we have got for the future. And sometimes I explain this to my religious sisters with sweets. I say, you can move them. Nobody's going to eat them up afterwards, but the important thing when we talk about that is that we have to put new sweets. Not only that we are manipulating the ones we've got and touching them, and to offer new sweets, because otherwise we are going to see more of the same thing. We want to do a change at the school, so technologies, grants for technologies. The other day I saw a project from another language that was not English, but an indigenous one, and they showed me the activities of multiple intelligence. And I said, there's only one activity, which is the linguistic and verbal one, which are variations of activities of a book on the linguist. So this is not a project of multiple intelligence. And they say, well, children don't like that. Yes, because it's more than that. You have made a change, which is using the the template you use for that to an understanding project. But the activities, which is the most difficult thing to reach the objectives, are the activities of the book. Are activities that don't make the children stand up from the chair. So you have to bring the future, you have to be able to bring the future to the things we've got. So the leader is that person who gives us the horizon of expectations. The horizon of expectations. Which horizon of expectations have you got with yourself? So one said, mine is to learn English. This is the goal. Your horizon of expectations is to be a global citizen. And for that, I need to learn languages, and this has to be translated into English. But the horizon of expectations is the dream. The leader has to be able to communicate the organization, the horizon of expectations, and to say, let's go there. Which is our horizon of expectations in all these schools. You are talking about ideas, about an own character, about own educational projects. So just to give you a horizon of your expectations, this is to offer the pupil the development of his own well-being in order for them to be protagonists of their learning, and a pedagogical moment for him to be critical, pedagogical, entrepreneurial, and to transform them in a way that is ethical, excellent, and committed to good work. This horizon of expectation can be fragmented. We can say that this is the development of the very own self to offer a pedagogical moment, but those are horizons of expectations because those are the goal and objectives. This goes far beyond, this is a dream for us. So when the horizon of expectations is farther than that, much better. What is it useful for? In order for us to walk along. If we have got as experience, as the horizon of experience to learn English, we go to the English class, and then everything is something very, very short and very limited and very restrictive. As you can understand, we used to say before that this entrepreneurial issue was not something fashionable for some years. So we can update, and we must update the horizon of expectations. It's our dream, what we want to achieve, that our pupils change the world. How am I going to walk so that my pupils can really change the world? So the experience space is the daily activities in the classroom with activities, matters, and so on and so forth. So this is what we live, what we experience, what we've got every day, the things we have found and are doing. And now we have got the important moment, and see, you have paid a lot of attention. If you understand this, or if I can explain this properly, I think all of us are satisfied. And this is the topic of the attractors. What is it the person who is appealing or attracting something? They make that this horizon of experiences gets more opened, that they can have some exit points, that this horizon of experiences is opened in such a way that the space of experiences can be attracted by them in a way that it can get open too. And if in this way this experiences room is joined with this horizon of expectations, and the leader must be there. A person who attracts for these children to grow is something that has to do with cooperation. An attracting person is everything that can be posed for those ideas. If we want the student to have that competence, to have that globalization, so we have to think that in all of our matters, this globalization must exist, this way of talking of others. The leader, in order to be sustainable, has to maintain the educational community with these attracting persons and factors. So the leader is not only the one maintaining the dream, but maintaining the dream of the students being creative, entrepreneurial, ethical, has to maintain this dream, but saying, for the pupil to be ethical, we have to work on the digital citizenship. Nobody in this school is going to unload films from the internet. So is it okay? The leader is that person who is maintaining these attracting people and factors so that the experience space is more open and gets closer to that horizon. So that a leadership, and this is one, so that the leadership is sustainable, the leader is not only the one maintaining the horizon of expectations, but above all, the one generating those attractors in order to reach that expectations. And this is a very good idea, and as it is not mine, I can think that it is something incredibly good. But really, the most incredible thing is that we can analyze perfectly if we are achieving these expectations horizon or the experience space. Some people say, yeah, we are going to be entrepreneurial now. Some people say, oh, we are fantastic. But in 4 days, the dream is going to be over. So you are working for the student to change the world so that the student can get committed with his own learning. You are working for something that is much higher and far beyond. So this cooperative work, Chinese and English, is something to reach these expectations horizon to be real. So one say, okay, that's fine, that's lovely. But how can we do this? And this is the third part. How can we do this so that these attractors do answer to the situation of the 21st century and so that they can really make out for this? How can we do this? This is that I don't know. How do we discover the forces for changing? You can find a dad whose child has been born with a deficiency. This gentleman starts to look for information in internet, finds a gentleman in Washington who is an inventor and who is working with prostheses in internet, and he says how you can with a printer, in a 3D printer, to put the finger and to join them. And this gentleman who's an inventor has made his research with one of South Africa. Mm-hmm. So, forces for change. This is a force for change. We have to publish everything we do because it's something good for the rest. We have to be able that we have to enable the students to work with a 3D printer, and we could go on like that. So nowadays we found many things that are intelligent. An umbrella which is telling you whether you have to take it or not if it's raining, and you can find some bolts that are telling you whether you are placing them well or badly. A red light tells you whether it is the case, and green when it is well placed. And if you want to, the other day at the airport in Paris, they told you, I knew that there was a program that was telling you the gate you had to embark in. And then we have got this, which is marvelous, this paper, which is thermosensitive, that changes according to the temperature. Flowers appear, leaves appear, and generates a space and another atmosphere, which is wonderful. So change forces. We have to know our world, and we have to know that the world is so complex, that the educational system needs to participate of that complexity and not get isolated. And in that way, we have to be generous, we have to share, we have to put on the table the things we've got, and we do not have to hide anything at all. So cooperation, trust, generosity of the things we are giving is what makes us go farther, and what makes us understand, perhaps not understand the world, but to participate in the world and to be able to raise our hands. There are companies that agree. If you have read things by Amalio Ray, the whole topic is about the hybrid things. Apparently, there are things, for instance, a company of toys that agrees that reaches an agreement with a company of cars in order to generate the best car for the family. And for instance, a factory of fabric that reaches an agreement with Cirque du Soleil. So sometimes we think that reaching an agreement among schools is something difficult. We should reach agreements with the whole society, town halls, and so on. So okay, what it used to be a dream, or what it seemed to be a dream, is real now. I have been in Doha, in Qatar, and this is a desert, a real desert of sand, but for these athletics games, they have manufactured a cloud and it can rain on the field. This is something puzzling, and I could explain much more, but we are about to finish. So in this third part, the forces of change, because they say very beautiful, but on the daily things, how does this work? These forces are the ones that set up or establish what is going to come to the room and what maintains the whole horizon of expectations. So this means the revolution, the neurological revolution, the globalization, the revolutions, the digital revolution. All these things are forces that enter and that make you look behind. This has already been done regarding neurology. We are doing things about what the brain. We cannot say that everything before used to be bad. Everything was so good that now we want to do something else due to the good things we had, and that has made the school to have the things to reach the point they have reached. I said to the people at the school the other day, you have reached so much, you should be satisfied, you should be happy. And thanks to the things we did before, we can reach more things now. Many plural models, how we are doing these things, how they are being done, and the commitment. What do you want to do and how do you want to do them? So we have to be very able to develop these forces of change at the whole school. And for us, those are the four big transformations And then I think that this has already been explained in another workshop. The four big transformation with these changing forces, and this transformation, you know, that is curriculum, methodology, evaluation, the first transformation, then the roles of the teacher and the pupil, cultural spaces, that makes that innovation is there. To take these forces of change to this innovation and to reflect again about the things we are doing and how we are doing it, and this reflection would lead us in a very quick way to a training of the teachers to implement what we are reflecting, to follow, and once this has been implemented and trained, to reflect on how we can do this better, which other things we can do, how can we generate. An example for us, the neurologic revolution is something that has really defined very much the kindergarten or the primary or the very primary school. When we knew that there was a revolution between the 0 and 3 years and the 3 and the 8, we decided to change education completely. And the best teachers were devoted and every resource to the very first years. This neurological revolution changed everything and changed completely. Well, it changed everything. The kindergarten, the very first years of the primary education, so we reflected on this education, we trained the teachers, we implemented meaningful changes from the neurological point of view. We have followed that and we have reflected how we were going to implement that, and we have generated new attitudes and new ideologies. When we are updating a software program or when we are updating the software of the mobile phone, nothing changes at all. Appearance and what it is changed is the operative system and the mobile phone. So this is what is happening also at the school. These new things are the updatings of the things we are doing. When you know about the digital revolution, when we know that these pupils of ours are going to be pupils who are going to be in touch with this world of the robotic, this makes that we start to think that the students have to know how to program, so we have to look what things are being done. We implement that. We are not doing things in a robotic way. We implement this within the projects in order for us to use it as a computer. So doing that in a cross-cutting approach and then reflecting and so on, and you close the circle. So then in a very quick way, because each of these aspects could be reflected, what I wanted to say is that the leadership is sustainable when we feel as artists and we enjoy being leaders, and when we can generate horizons of expectations with attracting factors and people, and we update them with the forces of change. And these forces lead us to a training, implementation, and updating, which is continuous. That's why we say that this is a plane that is flying and we keep on building it. We are in a dynamic of change because our world is like this, and because these forces are bigger and bigger. I would like to end up, and I have taken more time summing up with this video of this dance of these birds. So if you look at them, what can we learn from them? Can we learn perhaps harmony? Where's the leader? Who is maintaining the flight? And who makes that nobody gets lost? And I love this explorer, Shackleton. He was not so much interested in crossing the Antarctica, but in the fact that all his men should survive. So we should generate a kind of leadership which all of us can enjoy together, and together can acknowledge which these attracting factors are. We have to know better and better these forces of change, and we have to meet all together in another Congress in order to talk about that. But let's fly. The present world needs us to fly, and it's worth a while for you to have pupils that can change the world in a more ethical and better way. Thank you so much.